Okay, first of all, this video is in full English because my girlfriend just asked for that, so I'm doing it. But it's still a bit of a challenge for me because I've never done this before, and for one, it's not my mother language. The second thing is, I don't really speak English unless I'm traveling, so if anything, it's 100% my fault, okay? I wish you guys understand that. And by the way, she just graduated, so if you really happen to see her, just feel free to say congratulations, mate. But again, I'm really proud of her, and I really do appreciate everything she did for me and through the years. And anyway, the first thing that came to my mind is weather. So back in South Island, back in New Zealand, it was usually like 3 to 20 degrees Celsius every day, and I reckon it's alright because to me, that kind of cold it just came with certain humidity, so I kind of get used to the kind of wet and cold weather because for one, my nose is feeling a lot better than dry cold, and back in Hong Kong, the cold here is different because it comes from the north, it's from mainland China. So the wind is really dry and the cold it's just causing pain everywhere in my body, including my bones. It's just freezing. And looking back, just a week ago, I was in South Island. I was in Christchurch, and I could clearly remember it was still 16 or 15 degrees Celsius something, which is the same as what it shows on the internet right now in Hong Kong. But it's clearly two things, because now I'm in a hoodie and a down coat, but when I was in Auckland, if you take a look at this picture, I was shirtless doing a barbie on the veranda. This is crazy. I just genuinely don't understand how it can be like statistically the same, but it feels like two different worlds. Because I remember my mom was coming out from the house. She's just in t-shirts and then in shorts, and then I was shirtless. But back in here, I'm frozen. It doesn't matter how much thing I put on my body, I'm still freezing. And if you take a look at this picture, it was 1 year ago. I was trekking in Kyrgyzstan, and this is the base camp of the mountain. And at night, it could fall like minus 10 degrees Celsius or even below. So yeah, it was actually really cold. But we mustered around a tent. That's where we're gonna have dinner over there. And just take a look at this picture. I was just in a down jacket, which I bought when I was 15 or 16 years old, and inside it was just one t-shirt. Okay, I was having a fever, but there was only one t-shirt inside the down jacket. And right now, I'm in a t-shirt, a hoodie, and this down jacket, and I'm still freezing. I don't know what's going on with this place. What's wrong with everything around me? I feel like all the walls and everything around me is just made of ice or what. And I wasn't bluffing because I got a few friends coming back from the UK, and then they said the cold is worse in here. I felt like the cold just like every time when the wind blows to me, and then it just penetrates through the skin and hit the bones, and then it's gonna break my body someday. But anyway, let's get back to this video. So me and my family, we were driving from Queenstown to Mount Cook on that day, and we drove two cars. So I was driving one and my dad drove another. So we set off not very early in the morning. It was like 9 o'clock something. Because I just want my parents to have longer sleep and rest before driving again, because the drive is like 3 hours, and alongside with stopping at a few lookouts in spots like the salmon farm and the lavender farm, taking rest, having lunch in the servo, filling petrol, this and all that. It would be, I assumed, and it was actually like a 4.5 hour drive. We get there by 2 to 3 o'clock, and we still gotta look for parking spots. So it took even longer to get there. But I reckon the drive was worth it. It was totally worth it because it was definitely the highlight of the trip because I mean, it was absolutely stunning, man. I've never ever seen drives like this in the past in Australia or anywhere else, and it's actually the best scenic drive in New Zealand, I reckon. And I guess it has to be between Milford Sound and Mount Cook because it's just crazy. It was insanely surreal, man. Yeah, and you see the glacier, the skies like in a few different blues, in the lake is even more blue. It was like turquoise or something. I'm not really sure how you say that in English, but yeah. And you still see the lupin flowers all along the way in purple, just on the side of the road, and you get the snow mountains, yellow mountains, green mountains, and whatever mountains you can imagine. It looks so fake, like an AI. I'm not gonna lie. It was actually one of the most surreal places that I've ever been to. Definitely the most insanely beautiful drive ever in my life. And I thought if one day I really got into an accident or I got in a car crash and I died and I got luck, I get sent to heaven. That's what it looks like when I'm driving there. And again, I gotta talk about the biggest regret and the biggest failure of this trip, and that has to be having my camera left in Hong Kong. You know, I've always been very passionate about photography, videography, and so I brought my GoPro, a dash cam, a drone, and my iPhone because I expect it's gonna be all like landscape and nature photos, and my Canon camera is just such a bulky one, so I just gave up taking it with me, and I was wrong. I was dead wrong. And turns out it's like all the cameras are pretty shit in my bag and the photos look so lame and stupid. I'm so regret about it. And a lot of places here, especially for the most scenic places, you want to fly a drone, I guarantee you it's like 100% banned. I feel like 10 out of 10 places wherever you reckon is scenic that you can't fly a drone there, and there are actually heaps of signs you can see when you're driving on the road. It says no drones, no drones. And if I was in Australia, I guess 99 out of 100 times I would just ignore the rules. I would just ignore it. I would just fly it out. I don't care because apparently there was no rangers. Well, not as much as I can see here. No planes, no helicopters, not even a single human can be seen most of the time when I was on the road. I could just film as long as I want until the drone dies. So yeah, but here there are actually so many signs on the road and tours and park rangers here and there. I'm pretty damn sure I would get a hefty fine just by switching it on, let alone flying. Another reason is that I could actually see like heaps of helicopters, planes flying back and forth over the gorges, over the lakes, you know, the scenic fly. So yeah, I surrender, man. I don't want to get someone killed before 2026, and so basically I used my drone for less than 3 times throughout the whole trip, and it sucks, man. The place is so beautiful, but I can't just take the shot, and yeah, I can't just take photos of it. But yeah, anyway, I guess my parents really enjoy that, especially my dad. Yeah, we had a radio on both cars, so he's always like calling me and says, "Hey, let's pull over on the roadside," and then he came down and then take a lot of pictures of mountains and glacier, and then we'd be on the road again and then pull over again and again. Yeah. And then we also had a walk on one of the hiking tracks. So basically there were like 3 hiking tracks, if I'm not wrong. And the most famous one was the Hoka Valley, I guess, Hoka Valley. But on that day, we're told one of the bridges were closed and it was like really packed in Hoka Valley, and we didn't want to go there because it was like 1.5 hour return walk, and it was quite a lot for my parents, and so we just switched to another one. Another one was relatively easier. It was just 40-minute return walk, so it was like half of the distance if you just compare to the Hooker Valley one, and the view was pretty nice. And but yeah, it was actually pretty packed as well, especially in the parking lot, and it's so different from regional areas in Australia, because you need to find parking spots here anywhere, and then if you just park on the roadside, you'll probably get fined because there are quite a lot of police patrolling around. So we gotta wait for a while before we get the parking spot. But anyway, I'm really glad that my parents enjoyed the experience, because they don't really get to travel this far. Because they're getting old, and I was talking about an 11-hour flight from Hong Kong, and I'm just happy they get to enjoy the experience. And then everything was planned by me, and then that was quite satisfying. But just take a review on my itinerary planning. It was obviously a pretty stressful one, because it's so different from traveling to Europe. Things are much closer, and places like more developed. You got a lot more freeways, you got a lot more cars, but in New Zealand it's like regional Australia. You don't really have a lot of cars on the highway. You don't really see a lot of people on the way, and then it's like all country drives. And so for my dad, he drives taxi. He drives like 10 hours every day, and he's fine with that, because apparently if you drive in Hong Kong, right, there are like heaps of cars on the road, and then you don't really get time to sleep. It's like you just feel the tension of the cars, and then you feel it's like pretty stressful for 10 hours. And then because the cars is like swerving through the lanes, and then some of them don't really use indicators, so you gotta keep your attention. You gotta concentrate on the road, and that's fine for him because it keeps his attention well, right? And then, but if you drive in here, you might not see a car for like 5 to 10 minutes every now and then it's just like all countryside, and then trees and grass, and he could sleep. He could sleep when he's driving. I guess it's like too boring for him, and then for me it's completely fine. For me it's like exactly the opposite. I really enjoy this like country drives, and then highway without a car. It's much better if it's like an all straight road down to the end. I don't even need to move the steering wheel. And then but my dad is different, man. And then I guess I'm the weird one, not him. I really hate driving in the city. I would rather just take an Uber. But even though New Zealand is not as big as Aussie, but the things is still pretty far away. If you drive from Queenstown to Mount Cook, it's like a 3-hour drive. So if you take a return drive, it could be like 6 hours more than that. And then along with if you take a stop and then stop by having lunch, taking photos, it could go like 7 or 8 or 9 hour drive in a day as well. So because all of my past experience having a road trip in WA, I start the car, I just set off pretty early in the morning. It wasn't like very early, it was only like 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. We start the car, we set off, and let's say it could be like a 4-hour drive, right? So if you set off at 5 a.m. and then if it's like a 4-hour drive, I assume it would be 4.5 or even 5-hour drive. If you drive faster, if you just overspeed, it could reduce a little bit of time as well. So, but anyway, a 4-hour drive, it should be like 4.5 hours, because if you take a rest and then you fill in the petrols, and then you have lunch and this and all that. Yeah, and if you set up at 5, you should be arriving around 9 something or 10 something in the morning, and then you get to spend 2 to 3 hours in that place, and that would be 12 to 1 o'clock or even 2 o'clock that you finish all the activities at that place, and then you head to the next accommodation, and which probably take another 2-3 hour drive, and you get to the house by like 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you can take a rest, and then you go to get grocery, and then you can go to that place and watch sunset and have a rest and whatever you want to do. But yeah, on that day we went to Mount Cook. We set up at 9 o'clock, so it's pretty late for me because I expect we would be arriving at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock something, but eventually we got there by like 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we just took a few photos and we left around like 4 something, and then the next accommodation site is like 2.5 hour drive, and every day we get to the accommodation so like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and it really wasn't fun. You don't really get to rest after a long drive. You don't really have time to shower, and then as long as you get to this place, and then you gotta unload all the luggage, everything on the car, and then prepare for shower, and then before you shower, and then you just unload everything. You gotta rush to restaurants because they're pretty much gonna be closed by 9. So it's pretty hectic every day. Yeah, and I didn't really enjoy this part because I really enjoy if you go to this accommodation earlier and then take a rest before you're going out for dinner, or even maybe you want to go to get grocery and cook, and you have some time to take a rest for your body to like calm down, and then really take a break from the drive, from everything you just experienced today, from everything you saw, and then maybe you want to scroll your phones and then talk to your family, or you want to have a look at the photos you just took this Avo. So yeah, but I think it's just a price, man. It's like a trade-off. You wanna get to those places. You gotta sacrifice a little bit of the time for your rest. And I feel like everything is okay. It just went okay. It wasn't perfect, but I really did my best, and then I guess it just couldn't be better because, well, unless we have a few more weeks there, then we can take it slow, but we don't. So yeah, I guess the best has already happened. But I reckon you can't just come to New Zealand without going to Mount Cook or Milford Sound, because this is what we came here for. And you wouldn't expect that to be like a short drive going to these places. Yeah, it wouldn't be like a 1 hour drive. It wouldn't be like 2 hour drive. It wouldn't be 3 hour drive neither, because if you counted altogether the return ride, the time's like doubled. So 3 hours became 6 hours, and I'm not quite sure, and I was a little stressed because I wasn't sure if my dad can drive on these boring, very laid-back country roads and keeping himself concentrated on the road for this period of time, and it would be very tight for him. I spent in total 8 days in New Zealand. I spent 7 days in the South Island and 1 day in Auckland because of my flights, and I gotta get back to work. And but my family, they just retired, so I spent 2.5 weeks there, much longer than me. And I didn't really have time in Auckland. It was basically just sleep over in the Airbnb, and then the other morning I just head straight to the airport. My dad drove me there, and so I couldn't really put any comment on that. But the road over there is pretty chaotic. You know, you got the cyclist lanes, and then I even saw like a car on the wrong side of the road at night when it was raining, because first of all, it's like all the signs is it's pretty chaotic. It's like really different from Australia. But anyway, I just took a little review in Queenstown because that was the first city where I landed in New Zealand, and I felt like the food there in Queenstown is pretty touristy. You know, it's like a very touristy town there, built for tourism. And why I say that is because you get all the translations on the menus, and you got heaps of Chinese restaurants, and then you got Chinese translations, you got Korean translations, and then you got Japanese translations. It's like translations everywhere. And I didn't really expect that when I go to places like this. I expected to be feeling more New Zealand than just a tourist spot and then built for tourism. But anyway, it is what it is, and it is actually built for tourism, and that's how it survives. And the food over there is not going any better, because I feel like it's like very standard white food, Western food, and pub food. You get chips on the side of the dish, and then you got steak, you got ribs, you got pasta. It's just very standard, very standard Western food. And the portion, most of the restaurants is like pretty decent, but we went to like a more high class restaurants on the first day of my arrival, and we booked it ahead because it's like 25th or 20, I guess it was like 26th, so one day after Christmas Day. And the portion is like tiny, mate. I'm not gonna lie. It's like I felt like I could finish like 10 plates and I can still go to McDonald's and get a meal. But I'm surprised, the grocery over there is relatively cheaper than what I see in Australia, especially for the meat. And you got like steak and chicken and lamb at relatively fair price, So there was a day we went to a big butchery in town, and everything is really fresh over there. And you can see people like cutting meat parts in the back of the store, and everything is really fresh there. So we get like 4 eye fillet steak, and the size is pretty decent as well. I'm not talking about like tiny. It's like the size of my hand, and unless your hand is like, of course, very tiny, but I'm talking about it's like the size of my hand, and then 4 of them along with a lamb rack, and which we took home for barbecue, and 5 items altogether. I would assume it's like 160 Aussie dollars if I get the same thing in Australia, but turns out it's only like 100. So it's pretty worth it, It's fresh, it's decently sized, and then it's cheap, I would definitely recommend if you get to go there, get a house, stay longer, maybe just rent an Airbnb house which got a barbecue, and just get grocery and cook at home is much better than dining outside. And I want to talk about another funny story about cooking. So for meat, they got heaps of choices here in New Zealand, and one of the choices being venison meat and venison steak, which the meat itself comes from deer. And in fact, New Zealand is probably the biggest producer and exporter of venison meat, and when you're driving on the road, you can actually see deer farms every now and then, and essentially it looks like heaps of brown animals on the farm. And at the first glance, after flying off from Australia, I thought it was like, what the hell are those? Are they like brown kangaroos or what? Because my eyes are pretty bad, first of all, and second, it's like everything all in my head is like, I thought of like this shape like kangaroos. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and I personally love trying new things, especially when it comes to local food over there. I would like to experience, and the worst has to be Kyrgyzstan food, period. But anyway, you guys probably know what I'm gonna say. And yes, I bought a venison stick back home. I fried that on a pan, and it turns out it tastes really bad. You know when you eat tuna sashimi, and when it's not fresh and it's not like a fat one, the taste of blood is really strong, and that's what it tastes like. It's like a mixture of tuna and kangaroo meat, and all together it just tastes weird. And I was starving, so I didn't finish it. It's like no fucking way I'm gonna eat that whole thing. So yeah, that's what happens. And by the way, I couldn't believe how many cops and undercover cops there's on the road, but I reckon it's because the towns here are relatively closer if you compare to what it is in WA or Australia. And big towns are just pretty much 2-hour drive or like 3-hour drive in New Zealand. So it makes sense police are patrolling on these roads just to make another income stream for the government. And like in WA, you can imagine no one's gonna patrol on the highway between like Carnarvon and Tom Price, because it's like an 8 to 9 hour drive one way. And where do you expect the cops to sleep, right? So yeah. And I've seen a few times there were like undercover cop cars turns on the light and took a U-turn on the highway and chased somebody off because maybe they were like using phones or speeding or something like that. I have no idea, but I reckon the traffic design here could have been way better, and there's just no place as user-friendly as WA. I have multiple occasions where the speed sign says 100 and you go in the 100 in a 100 zone, right? And all of a sudden it turns down to like 50, and I was like, wow. You could have put on like 80 and 70 all the way down to 50. Instead of making it just like a one go straight down to 50, I would just fly out the car if there's no seatbelt, mate. And there was a time I remember I was like driving at 80, just sticking to the clock, just sticking to the speed limit, and I was like driving over a crest, and as long as I pass through the crest, it changes to 50 right away. So I just slowed down gradually when there was a cop right over the crest. He was flashing me with high beams, and I guess he was telling me to slow down or something, but I was slowing down, mate. What do you want me to do with your stupid road design? Do I just slam on the brakes? You want me to floor it? But anyway, it was interesting, and yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for putting up with my English, and I wish you liked the rest of the video.
Take a give me their shot in the kitchen. Tell my friends that I'm fixing to head that way. Everybody wants somebody on a weekend. Go sit at a bar, have a drink with a neon bad decision they could leave with. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Wish that Friday wasn't just another way to say lonely. And Sunday morning didn't dawn on me that I'm hungover from the weekend. Yeah, the weekend of a heartache, a permanent case I'll get over you one day, someday.